Have you ever felt completely unqualified for something you believe you're meant to do? Like you have this huge calling, but a tiny voice inside whispers, "Who, me?" You've got to be kidding. That's exactly where Gideon found himself. Imagine this. Your people are being terrorized, hiding in caves, their crops stolen year after year. And then, an angel shows up and calls you. Yes, you, the guy from the smallest clan, the least in your family, a mighty warrior, and tells you to save everyone. Talk about pressure, right? This is the story of how one of the Bible's most hesitant heroes learned to trust a God who was bigger than his doubts. Let's set the scene. For 7 years, the Israelites were suffering under the brutal oppression of the Midianites. Every time they planted crops, the Midianites and their allies would sweep in like a plague of locusts, destroying everything. The Israelites were impoverished and terrified. It was in this desperate situation that God decided to act, and he chose Gideon, a man who was secretly threshing wheat in a winepress just to hide it from the enemy. He wasn't exactly exuding confidence. When the angel of the Lord appeared and declared, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior," Gideon's response was dripping with sarcasm and despair. He essentially said, "If God is with us, why is all this happening? Where are the miracles our ancestors told us about?" He was honest about his confusion and pain. He didn't see a mighty warrior. He saw a victim of circumstance, a member of a forgotten people. God's response wasn't a rebuke. It was a command. Go in the strength you have and save Israel. Am I not sending you? But Gideon's self-doubt was a mountain. He replied, "Pardon me, my lord, but how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest, and I am the least in my family." He laid out all his insecurities, all the reasons why he was the wrong guy for the job. God's answer is one of the most powerful promises in Scripture. I will be with you. It wasn't about Gideon's strength. It was about God's presence. To prove it, God performed an initial sign, consuming Gideon's offering with fire from a rock. This was a powerful confirmation, and for a moment, Gideon was convinced. He even built an altar to the Lord. But as the reality of leading an army against a massive enemy sank in, that old familiar friend, doubt, came knocking again. This is where the famous fleece comes in. Gideon is about to embark on this impossible mission, and the weight of it is crushing him. He needs more. He needs to be absolutely 100% certain that this isn't just his own crazy idea. So he devises a test. It's a very specific, almost scientific experiment. He says to God, "Look, I'll place this wool fleece on the threshing floor. If there is dew only on the fleece and all the ground is dry, then I will know that you will save Israel by my hand, as you have said." Think about how bold this is. Gideon is dictating the terms of the miracle. He's not just asking for a sign. He's designing it. This wasn't a challenge born of arrogance, but of deep-seated insecurity. He desperately wanted to believe, but his human logic couldn't bridge the gap between his inadequacy and the magnitude of the task. He needed something tangible, something undeniable. And how does God respond to this demand? With incredible patience. The next morning, Gideon goes to the threshing floor. The ground all around is perfectly dry, but when he picks up the fleece, it's so saturated with dew that he wrings out a full bowl of water. The sign was performed exactly as he had requested. The miracle was undeniable. Now, for most of us, that would be it, right? A custom-made miracle should be enough to silence any doubt, but not for Gideon. The human mind is a funny thing. Perhaps he thought, well, wool naturally absorbs moisture more than a hard-packed dirt floor. Maybe this was just a fluke of nature, a weird atmospheric condition. His doubt, though momentarily quieted, found a new foothold. His logical brain was still trying to rationalize what he had just witnessed. So he goes back to God, and this time he's even more hesitant. "Do not be angry with me," he begins. "Let me make just one more request." He knows he's pushing his luck. This time, let the fleece be dry and the ground be covered with dew. He's reversing the conditions, creating a test that defies the natural properties of wool. For the fleece to be bone dry while the ground all around it is wet with dew, that would be a truly supernatural event. There would be no explaining that away. This is the real turning point of the story. God had every right to be frustrated. He had already given Gideon a sign with the consumed offering and the first fleece test. But God's character is one of immense grace and understanding. He sees Gideon's heart. He knows this isn't rebellion. It's a desperate plea for assurance. Gideon isn't trying to test God's power. He's trying to build his own faith on a foundation of certainty. So God kind of sends once more. That night, he does exactly what Gideon asked. In the morning, the ground is soaked with dew, but the fleece? It is completely, utterly dry. The second sign, the impossible one, was complete. And with that, Gideon's doubt was finally silenced. He had his undeniable proof. The experience transformed him. He was no longer the hesitant man hiding in a winepress. He was now God's chosen leader, armed not just with a mission, but with the unshakable confidence that God was orchestrating every step. This story isn't just a historical account. It's a profound lesson for every one of us who has ever struggled with faith. How many times have we felt a nudge from God but been paralyzed by our own feelings of inadequacy? We say, I'm not smart enough, not talented enough, not holy enough. Gideon's story tells us that God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. His power is made perfect in our weakness. More importantly, the story shows us that honest doubt is not the opposite of faith. It can be a pathway to it. Gideon didn't hide his questions or pretend to be stronger than he was. He brought his uncertainties directly to God. He wrestled, he questioned, and he asked for help. And in response, God didn't shame him. He met him right where he was. He patiently provided the assurance Gideon needed to move forward. This teaches us that it's okay to have questions. It's okay to need reassurance. Our sincere struggles don't disqualify us. In fact, when we bring them to God, they can become the very things that deepen our relationship with Him and solidify our trust. Gideon's faith wasn't built on a blind leap in the dark. It was built through a personal, interactive experience with God. The fleece tests weren't just about getting a yes or no answer. They were about building a relationship. They solidified Gideon's understanding that God was personally involved in his life and invested in his mission. Once his faith was confirmed by that tangible experience, he was ready to face an army of 135,000 with only 300 men, because he knew it wasn't about his numbers, but about God's presence. So what's your fleece? What's the area of your life where you feel called but unqualified? Where you're wrestling with doubt and uncertainty? The lesson from Gideon is not necessarily to put out literal fleeces, but to follow his example of bringing our honest doubts to God. Be real with Him. Tell Him your fears and insecurities. Ask for clarity and confirmation. God is patient. He understands our human frailty, and He is more than willing to provide the assurance we need to step out in faith. Your doubt doesn't have to be a dead end. It can be the starting point of your greatest adventure with God. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content that explores faith in the real world. See you in the next one.